Our university's history with slavery is the history of America writ small. From the very start, liberty and slavery were intertwined. That was true for our nation, and it was true for this university.
Martha Sandweiss, known to all as Marnie, is a professor of history at Princeton University. A few years ago, she took a class into the university archives to do original research on how slavery figured into the early history of the college. It was the beginning of what became the Princeton Slavery Project.
Our first 9 presidents owned slaves, and at least 5 of those men owned slaves while they lived right here in this house. So this house is our ground zero.
From the historical facts, a picture of college life in the 18th and early 19th centuries begins to emerge.
When you came to Princeton College, you had to pass a Greek and Latin exam, and you had to be examined by the president. So you would spend your first night in town at a boarding house, and the next morning you would get up, you would walk to the president's house and knock on the door. And who do you think answered it? I really think the first person you met here as a student was an enslaved member of the president's household.
Princeton joins Harvard, Yale, and dozens of other universities by exploring its hidden history of slavery. What began as an undergraduate class became a university-wide effort, with a website at its core.
The Princeton and Slavery Project has been 5 years in the making, and who knows how long it will take us to truly comprehend what it now reveals about the history we descend from.
United States Poet Laureate and Princeton professor Tracy K. Smith introduced the keynote speaker for the official launch of the project, Nobel laureate and Princeton professor emeritus, novelist Toni Morrison.
This commitment to change is profound, and it requires our attention to the subject that we are here to discuss. As Professor Sandweiss informs us, Princeton and slavery.
Well, at the core of the Princeton and Slavery Project is a set of facts. It's ads, it's financial records, it's wills, etc., that we have found. But historians aren't the only people who can interpret the past. And so it was always my idea from the very beginning of this becoming a project to reach out to colleagues who could explore the past in a different way.
Including through the arts. A public sculpture was commissioned for the front lawn of the president's house on Nassau Street. It's made in part out of sycamore wood.
The sycamore trees that are planted in the front yard of what was the president's house were planted in 1766. And campus lore says they were planted to celebrate the repeal of the Stamp Act. Campus lore, however, doesn't explain that just a few months after these trees were planted, President Finley's slaves were sold right here in their shade.
Those slaves, whose names we don't even know, are front and center now. The artist Titus Kafar is known for work that changes our perspective on history. Titus used actors in period dress to imagine what they might have looked like. In back, not seen at first, is the hollowed-out bust of their owner, Samuel Finley, 5th president of Princeton University. The actual fate of this family is lost to history, but now it's imagined in a new play as well.
Susanna stands with her arms around her 2 little children, Nathaniel and Grandma next to her. Jed stands to the side.
Start with the boy. Get on the block, boy.
Nathaniel looks at his father, eyes and heart. Nathaniel steps up on the block.
The kid is on the auction block, and he looks the auctioneer in the face with his head held high. And I'd say that's the moment that struck me the most.
He will not cry.
Under the Liberty Trees by Emily Mann is one of 7 short new plays commissioned as part of the Princeton and Slavery Project. The McCarter Theatre Center premiered the plays as staged readings to a full house.
All 7 of our top 7, when asked if they'd be interested in writing a 10-minute play about Princeton and slavery and use the archives and the historians and researchers here for that work, there was an immediate yes, 100%. And that's how much I think people want to be looking at this, writing about this, and hearing about it. We're part of a movement, really, in this country.
A black woman, holding a large duffel bag, stands facing a white man who stands on a high pedestal, very still, and looks out. The black woman is Jasmine, a student. The white man is the statue of John Witherspoon.
Just to get the historical perspective was very good.
It's, always a little bit difficult to hear and sad to hear.
They think that you're going to put them on ships by force. That was a statement made in error. The salvation of the soul.
I like to imagine that we're working in tandem. We, the historian team, have found the documents, and we have the playwrights over here who can take those documents and use their imaginations to get inside of people's heads and to help contemporary audiences really feel and imagine what the experience of these people was.
End of play.
The Princeton and Slavery Project examines the historical record and takes an emotional, imaginative journey through the arts.
Slavery is our national story. It's not a story that just happened in the South. It's not a story about what just happened to African American people. It's a story that's shaped our country, and we all live in its aftermath.